Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening on Wednesday, the 1st of March, 2023, to Vision Store's first Exploring Tech webinar with David Woodbridge for the year on introducing the Eone Bradley timepieces. My name is Tony Wu, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host, David Woodbridge. And today we have a couple of special guests from the US who are part of the E1 group, and they are based in the US. So thank you for waking up very early in the morning. And we'll introduce you just in a second because I have a couple of housekeeping stuff to do. I'd like to begin this session by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet this evening. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. The webinar will be recorded for those who cannot stay for the entire session, and you can access the recording later by visiting our Vision Australia YouTube channel. This is an interactive session, so please submit any questions that you may have throughout the session using the chat box. For those that use a screen reader, you can access the chat function through keystrokes Alt-H and Shift plus Command plus H if you're a Mac user. For those who are having issues with using the chat box, we'll dedicate some time towards the end of the webinar where I can unmute your microphone if you click on the raise your hand button, and we'll try to endeavor to answer as many questions as we can. Welcome, Ming and John. Would you like to do a little short introduction of yourself and where you're from, and then I'll hand it over to David.
Shall I go first?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on today. My name is Ming, and I am from the UK originally, but currently based in the US. I first came across E1, probably about 8 years ago now, when my husband bought me my first E1 timepiece. I do have vision loss. I'm legally blind. I have retinitis pigmentosa, and prior to getting my Bradley, I had not worn a watch for many years. So I was thrilled to receive it, a watch I actually wanted to wear that was also accessible. And I'm a writer, I'm a mum, and I'm an E1 fan.
Excellent. John?
Hi, my name is John Samuel, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Abler, which is a disability inclusion and accessibility organization. And like Ming, I also have retinitis pigmentosa and am also legally blind. And for me, I had been really just traveling the world. I worked across the globe, working in stints across the US, across Africa, across India. And the reason being is that I didn't think anyone who was blind could ever live in my home state of North Carolina. And so I ended up just traveling and working and pursuing my dreams elsewhere. And a serendipitous encounter brought me back home to North Carolina. And I ended up joining an organization called LCI, which happens to be the largest employer of people who are blind in the United States. And I was tasked with creating a new business that would create upward mobility for people in tech. And so that's how I ended up launching Abler. But I came across the E1 watch when I was helping another blind colleague look for a Braille watch. And when I found the E1 watch, it was just game changing. The moment I put my fingers on it, it showed me that accessibility can be sexy. And it helped me launch our company Abler, really making sure that accessibility can be sexy and that we don't have to compromise style when we make it accessible.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing that happened to me, because I've heard about the E1 timepiece, or the original term, I guess, was the Bradley watch. That's one of the models, at least. Based on of course, the design from originally with Bradley's Snyder. And so I kept hearing about it, and I thought, oh yeah, it's just another tactile watch on the market. It's a bra watch. It's for blind and low vision people. Everybody else, who cares? And then in November last year, when I first touched one for the first time, I can remember ringing up Tony Wu, as in my boss now that's on the webinar with us, and going, I've got 3 words for this watch. And I'm assuming Tony thought, oh my God, he doesn't like it. And I went, I want one. Because it really is amazing. So look, I know we're talking about the E1 timepiece. Which one of you would like to describe what the actual timepiece is, because I always feel it's insulting to call it a watch because it's such a classic design and it feels so damn good in your hand and blah, 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 that you almost feel, but it's a classic timepiece. It's not such something boring as a watch. But anyway, Ming or John, which one would you like to actually describe the watch to our participants? Or would you like me to pick one?
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay, Ming, far away.
So the Bradley watch is a tactile watch, and instead of having hands that move around the face of the watch, there are ball bearings, and there are two that move around different channels, one on the top of the face of the watch and one around the edge. The one on the top represents the minutes, and the one around the edge of the face represents the hours. There are also raised hour markings around the face of the watch. So as a blind user, I would feel for the ball bearing to see where it was on the face of the watch and how it lines up with the hour markings. The watches come in two sizes. There is the 40mm, which is a slightly bigger face, and then the 36, which is slightly more dainty, and they come with different straps. There's a mesh metal strap and the canvas strap, and lots of different styles of faces, but they all work in a similar way. You tell the time by feeling where the ball bearings are positioned on the face.
Yeah, now it's interesting today because I was talking to somebody. I was actually my host of Talking Tech for Vision Australia Radio, and I mentioned the ball bearing on the side, and he said, "What, the side of the watch face?" And I went, "No. This isn't actually around the edge of the watch," because I said it would be a bit confusing if you had sort of an inner channel for the minutes and an outer channel for the actual hours. So the minutes are actually on top of the watch, on the watch face, and the hour ball bearing is around the outside, where you've also got the winder as well. And the thing I notice about it, and I've got my watch on me at the moment, is the tactile markers really stand out from the watch face. So you've got on my particular one, and if you're talking to people overseas, participants and people who are listening afterwards, there are different styles of the E1 timepiece out there, but this is the classic design that we're working with in Australia at the moment. So at 12, I've got an upside down triangle. So that's pointing in towards the middle of the watch. And as Ming was saying, I've got markers, long markers at, well, the 12's triangle, then I've got a longer marker at 3, 6, and 9. And then almost feel like saying this is at the ordinal points if you're thinking about a compass. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11. They're smaller or shorter markers so that you can very quickly work out whether your finger, when you found the little ball bearing, is marked up against one of the 12, 3, 6, and 9, or the smaller tactile markers. And then around the edge of the watch on top of the top face again, you've got a raised edge, and those tactile markers are slightly higher than that actual edge. So when you put your hand on the watch, when you just touch it originally, you really feel these really bold markers that are going, hello, this is a tactile humongous, well, it's not humongous, but this is a proud tactile watch. And it's really, really cool. So like Ming said, I would find a little ball bearing, and then I take my finger over it and find out where the closest marker is, and the same with the hour one. And that works really nice. And of course, the winder, which this is on my left wrist. So of course, the winder is on the bottom. And the way that I like to explain where that groove is, or what the watch also looks like, is I say to people, if you can imagine a double chocky bicky, so you've got a chocolate biscuit wafer on top, which is the watch face, and then in the middle, you've got where all the cream and the yummy stuff is. So that gap in between the top wafer and the bottom wafer of the chocolate biscuit, that's where the other groove is. Because I got told I wasn't supposed to. It was funny, I was talking to somebody the other day and I went, do not use product names when you describe a chocolate biscuit, otherwise you'll get in trouble. So this is my imaginary chocolate biscuit. Doesn't matter what brand it is. So you've got 2 wafers, top and bottom, and then the groove's in the middle. And it's so distinctive to feel that groove. But yeah, when I put my hand on my one in November, it was just, I hate to say love at first touch because it sounds horrible, but let's just say love at first sight because it just really brings the quality home to you. One burning question I've got for both of you though, and we'll go Ming first and then John. When you say it comes with the different bands, and I know, Ming, we talked late last year about you having different bands. How easy would you say the bands are to change, though?
I can comment on that. So depending on the collection or the model that you get will determine what type of strap that you get. So a mesh strap won't be able to be connected to a watch face that uses the canvas straps as an example. And I think there was the your new stretchy band one that's coming out very soon, John.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have a clock face that uses mesh bands only, you can change it to the different mesh band colors. Yep. But you can't substitute it with a canvas band, for example.
Oh, okay. Because I just thought you could actually just because I assume that the actual, because you can actually detach the mesh band, which I'm assuming means you can put on a different color mesh band.
That's correct.
I thought that little attachment actually came off so you could use other bands. So there you go. Look, I've learned something today.
The actual clock face is slightly a little bit different depending on the collection that you get. So the Apex clock face is slightly bit different to the Bradley. That's something I learned from Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel, of course, is our E1 person, and he's based in Hong Kong. So, Ming, does that mean you've got different watch? Because I know when we were talking originally, you were talking about different bands. Does that mean you've got 2 different styles of watches, so to speak?
Yes, so I have completely separate watches. The one I'm wearing today is the mesh rose gold. So I'm holding it hopefully somewhere within the frame so that those who can see can have a look. This one is this is the metal version. So it's a mesh strap, which is a rose gold pinky color. And the face is rose gold in the center. And then the bevel around the edge where the hour markings are is silver. And this is the smaller profile, so the 36 mil. So obviously, if you were to change the strap on this one, it would have to be the slimmer strap as well. And the original Bradley that I have is a black canvas strap, and that's the original size. So it's slightly wider across the face.
Cool. I do have a comment from Daniel. Actually, I made a little mistake with the straps. The canvas strap can actually be fitted on all E1 collections, just except the Apex collection.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because I remember when I was talking to Daniel originally, when the other watch, which I've currently got on my other wrist, which I won't mention, but if you know I'm an Apple person, you can probably work out what it is. I've got 12 straps for that particular watch. So I thought, wow, I've got a fully designed inclusive timepiece now that I can buy more watch bands for. So that's pretty good. So John, what have you currently got as far as the watch is concerned in bands?
Well, right now I'm wearing the Apex watch with the stretchy band that actually is. So I have it's a black faced Apex with the white strap, stretchy strap. And it actually has the design of the Drip My Cane design, which is a cane competition that we launched we've done it for 3-4 years now. And E1 really kind of took a big part in helping sponsor it and helping get it implemented. So this one I love because I can just take it on and off and put it back on pretty easily. So it's really cool. And that's kind of what I used to do.
Now, when you say the Apex watch, what's the difference between the Apex watch and the traditional Bradley watch then?
So the traditional Bradley watch, I have one over here, I think. Sorry, let's see.
You're right.
This is one of the, here we go. Okay, so the traditional Bradley, this one has a different face than maybe you're seeing. Yeah, sorry, it's a prototype. Yes, Daniel.
That's okay.
And,
Thanks, Daniel.
but it is. Yeah. So this is the traditional Bradley watch that has, this one actually has a kind of shinier face, I think, on the outer side, and then a little bit shinier, but it has, like you talked about, it has this kind of, I don't know how you describe it, just kind of has two little pieces on the sides that kind of, the hinges go up and down, right? I think that's one of the biggest difference. This one with the Apex, it really does hug my wrist a little bit more. And it has like rigid side little arms on it that kind of, yeah. And so this one, again, it kind of, you strap on the strap, it goes on two loops, and that's how you get the strap on. Versus this one has hinges where you put the strap like a traditional, what you see on a traditional watch.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, Tony, I just noticed a message too. Have we visually put in front of the camera the watches? I know.
Yeah, I have.
You have?
I had to unblur my background so it wouldn't. But I've been showing my watch so that I could. Yeah.
All right. The other really cool thing about the Bradley timepiece, and I'll keep calling the Bradley one because to me that's the classic. That's the classic of all of the watch in the beginning, anyway. The really cool thing is when you get your traditional braille watch, wherever it's got real braille on it or tactile dots and markers, is a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't have the horrible, nasty flick up glass thing that can actually get broken, and I can speak to experience of that one. And nor does it have flimsy hands that you can also break, and I also speak from experience. Because of the ball bearings, you basically can't break them. And I was talking to Daniel originally, and I said, but what happens if you really, really try and get the ball bearings out? And the basic answer was, well, you can't, unless you start using some tools to really bash the crap out of the watch. So they're safe in the little channels, both the top one and the side one. And the really cool thing that I love about it is this is my perfect little fidget device, because you can find out where the little ball bearing is, and then you can push it right around the watch and keep going every direction, where you can find the little ball bearing on the side and push it around the whole channel. And then when you're finished playing, you can do a shake that I just did then and unlock my mic, and it puts the ball bearings at the back at the right time. So you really don't know, you really can't force the ball bearings out of alignment, because when you're touching it, you're putting your finger down on the ball bearing. So you're not really pushing it forwards or backwards. And just so people that actually can't see as well, when the ball bearing lines up, for example, with, say, at the moment, my little ball bearings lined up practically with the 9, which is the longest stroke tactile stroke marker, it's right next to it. Whereas when it gets to, say, the 10 or 11, there's a slight gap between you feeling where the ball bearing is and the tactile marker. So even that small tactile indication about the ball being close or the ball being further away to the marker when it's in front of it, so to speak, really also gives you that tactile feedback about what the time is. Because a lot of people have said to me, well, if it's these little ball bearings sticking out of a channel, how hard it is to find them. And I think within, I want to say 5 minutes of using the watch, I was quite happy with using the watch. So I'll just switch it around a bit too. John, so when you're out and about wearing your timepiece, what's the reaction from anybody and everybody about the timepiece on your wrist?
Well, it's like immediate, like, wow. You get the wow, what is that? And, for me, like I said, I'm in the disability inclusion and accessibility field. And so I'm always out and about talking to people. And, for a lot of people, when we're introducing what does it mean to be accessible, what does it mean to be universally designed, it's easy just to point to the Eone watch and say, this is what we're talking about. And when people see it and they touch it, they can perceive it in so many different ways. They get it instantly. But, the first thing is, it's like, not that they just get the idea of universal design, but they see how beautiful it is, because it is an attractive watch. It's like, it's like any luxury watch. It's like the Rolex of accessible watches, right? It's like, people are like, wow, that is amazing. So yeah, it really is cool.
Yeah. How about you, Ming?
What I found that was very different about this watch as an accessible timepiece is pretty much like John said, it's an attractive timepiece. And because of the selection of styles that is available, it just gives you so much choice. And I always find when I'm buying products that are accessible, there's often this idea that once a product is accessible, that's done, job done, move on. But the thing is that blindness can affect anybody. And the blind population is as diverse as a sighted one. And we all have different tastes. And you, John, might not necessarily want the same watch as me. Maybe you do want a dainty rose gold watch, but maybe you don't. I don't know. But we should have that choice, right? And, depending on what I'm wearing or where I'm going, I might choose a different style. And lots of other accessible timepieces don't offer that choice. The brands often feel that if they have offered the accessibility, then that's enough. And what I love about E1 is they've gone a step further and also given us the choice. And what that results in is, like John said, it's a really cool, attractive watch. But also people who are sighted, who don't necessarily need the accessibility feature, are also attracted to it because it's cool, it's different, and it's a talking piece. So I do have sighted friends who also wear the watch just because it's different, and it's a really cool thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's like me. As soon as I wear mine, to karate, which I don't actually wear the Bradley timepiece on the dojo floor, but when I go to karate, then take it off. Or wherever I go to meetings or, go to 18th birthday parties with my daughter at the moment and all sorts of things. People just originally say, where did you get that cool timepiece or the cool watch from? Because they just invariably want to touch it. And as soon as they touch it, they go, this almost reminds me of my grandfather's clock from donkeys ages ago, where you had inside the glass that you could open up, you had those huge, big tactile numbers. I know there were numbers rather than markers, but it's like, this feels like my grandfather's clock. Well, good for you guys. The question I've got, and Ming and John, you can answer it from a bit of a low vision point of view, but if the watch face, as I understand it, for me being totally blind, is silver, does that mean that the actual tactile markers are also silver? And is there much contrast if you wanted to look at the watch rather than touch it?
As I understand it, they are the markings are the same color as the actual ring, which is the edge of the watch face. But it is on the Bradley, it's a slightly different texture. So the face itself is matte, and then the markings are sort of shiny, so they do catch the light. So for someone with some vision, I think that would be helpful. I believe that is true of some of the different designs as well.
Right. Okay. Sorry, my iPhone's just decided to start talking to me. Stop that. Let me just. Oh, do you know what?
That's one of the benefits of the E1 is you don't have to worry about it talking and disrupting, because I can check the time anytime I want by just touching it, and no one has any idea that I'm checking the time, which is like one of my superpowers now.
Yeah, because I know a lot of low vision people, particularly people that are sort of in their senior years, get a bit worried about something that's tactile, and they try and hang on to their vision as much as possible. So I was just thinking from a low vision or a sighted person point of view, what it was like. Tony, what do you think from a low vision perspective or a sighted person's perspective, looking at the watch from a tactile visual point of view?
As a sighted person, the tactile markings are very prominent. They stand out. As Ming said, they have like a glossy finish. On the Bradley timepiece that I have anyway, it's glossy. Whereas the actual rest of the face is a matte. But I want to introduce one of our latecomer guest speakers, Joshua Madison. Welcome. did you quickly want to introduce yourself and where you're from and how you are connected to the E1 family?
Yeah, hi there. Sorry about that. A lot of technical difficulties on our end. But I'm Joshua.
I'm Madison.
And we are from the San Francisco Bay Area. We're in El Cerrito, and both of us are just longtime users of the E1 watch, and yeah, we just really great product that we both use, and we've been talking, working with Daniel for a couple years now, just talking with him, just back and forth, chatting with him. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you both have the traditional Bradley timepiece, or do you have the different models or versions of the watch?
We both have the which one is it? The compass watch.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, because when I was talking to Daniel originally too, because when I went onto the E1 website, I was very disappointed to find out that E1 does these what you call rollouts of different designs, and I got so excited about the compass one, and Daniel said, "Well, we don't do them anymore." And I went, "No, I want a compass one." Because I've actually got I haven't got it on at the moment, but I've got a ring which has actually it's a tactile ring that's got it's got the cardinal and ordinal points on the watch, on the ring. And I thought, I mean, it sort of matches up with my Bradley watch now with the larger and the smaller markers. But I thought then I could say, look, this is a match set. I've got a ring that's a compass, and I've got a timepiece that's a compass. What I was asking Ming and John before you came on too was, what do you find when you're wearing the timepiece, in public and everywhere else? Do people sort of associate it as sort of a blind person's low vision watch, or they just see it as a really cool timepiece?
Sorry, give me 1 second. For me, people don't initially see it as a tool for someone who's low vision. I remember the first time my barber saw it, he was just saying it's a really beautiful art piece. When I wear it to when I first wore it to my family parties, everyone just thought it was a cool looking piece. And when I described how it worked to them, then they were like, they were just, not just talking about how practical and how functional it was, but they were just drawn to the design of it and how it was just very unique.
Yeah, exactly. Madison, what do you think?
Yeah, same with me. Honestly, I think it's more of an accessory for me. It's a part of my everyday wardrobe. Honestly, yeah, that's just how everyone else sees it. And it just kind of sparks conversation more of being like more of an accessory, as opposed to something specifically made for someone with low vision.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the big question I've got, because I've had this a few times, which people haven't, and I always say to people, if you really want to experience the E1 timepiece, you really have to touch it to appreciate its wholeness of it. But I've had a few questions. People get worried about when they see the dimensions, about how high the watch sits off your wrist. So, Ming, what do you think about? Do you think that it's too high off your wrist? I mean, does it sort of protrude, get stuck on clothing, it gets caught on doorways, or are you just used to it, you don't worry about it?
Well, honestly, I don't worry about it too much. I think it, again, depends on the model. The very first E1 timepiece I had was the original E1 Bradley with the canvas strap. And that one I had in the larger size, in the original size. That one is, in my experience, the most lightweight. Once you put it on your wrist, you forget about it. It's so light, you don't even notice it's there. And with that one, I never had any problems with it catching on anything. I think that's quite a low profile one. If that's something you're worried about, the Bradley is a good one to go for. The one I'm wearing today, the Bradley Mesh with the metal strap. I mean, I suppose it is perhaps a little higher profile than a watch this size might be if it wasn't an accessible watch, but not so much that I would have problems, putting on a jacket or anything like that. I would say the Apex watch face is perhaps a little bit taller and a little bit heavier. Now that one feels like a real luxury timepiece. That one is really substantial, and it feels like a really special piece, but as a result it is a little heavier, and the markings I find very easy to tell the time because they protrude that little bit more than the Bradley one, but the trade-off is, of course, it is a tiny bit higher in profile.
Okay, so you don't feel like you're wearing this sort of, what can I say, this bulky, huge, cumbersome,
no,
certainly
on your wrist. Not with the Bradley. If you have really tiny wrists, then the Apex might feel a bit bulky, but I think for the average gentleman or the average lady, I think it would be okay.
Okay, Madison, do you have thoughts about the size of the Bradley watch and just wearing it in general, if it's too big or too small or whatever else?
For me, I think at first it seemed like it was bigger, honestly, but I have smaller wrists. So I had to get used to the size of the face on my wrist compared to, other, not traditional, but compared to other watches with the smaller face. But I mean, considering the design and how it's meant to be a tactile watch, I think it makes sense for the face to be as large as it is. And then I got used to it.
Yep, sure. And John, how do you feel about the height of the watch? Because people say, over here in Australia, we talk in real measurements, so 1.1 centimeters, whatever that is in inches and whatever else. But I mean, for you, does it protrude too much out of your wrist, or you just don't worry about it?
No, I mean, when I was able to see, because I went from being able to see to not, and I used to wear an Omega Speedmaster, which I think was a 42 mil. And, when I got the Apex, it was kind of the closest thing that I could find to I like that little chunkier feel to it. It gets a little substance, because the Bradley it is almost weightless. It's amazing. It's like it's so comfortable and it's great. But I like that. I like the bulk. I like a little bit of a feel to it. So the Apex really gives it to me.
Yeah, exactly. And Joshua, what do you feel about the watch size?
I think just kind of to reiterate what everyone says, it's the size isn't too worrisome for me, and especially depending on what type of outfit I'm going to be wearing. I have a few different models and with a couple different straps. So if I'm wearing, something like a t-shirt and jeans, I'll probably have on the one with I'll have canvas strap, something a little bit more low profile. If I'm going out to a more formal kind of dinner, I have a little bit more clothing. I'll have a jacket, a tie, a shirt, and so the extra. So the little bit more that something like the mesh strap will add, it kind of goes with that outfit, texture wise. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Now I've got one more question. I know we're getting close to the 10-minute mark, Tony. But as normal, can I just squeeze in one more question?
Of course you may.
Oh, thank you. You say no, you're in trouble. All right. So I know the watch is made of titanium, which is very sturdy material, as we know. Has anybody, and let's see, I'll pick on Madison. Have you dropped it, got it wet, anything like that you think might actually may or may not break the watch?
I think I have dropped it once or twice when I was learning how to put it on. And it's held up really well, or even just just like if I'm just kind of like swinging my arm around, not recklessly, but if I like banged it up against the wall, it holds up really well.
Okay, and what about if it's raining? Do you sort of like tend to take it off if there's a bit of a sprinkle of rain, or you don't worry about it too much?
No, I don't worry about it too much.
Okay. How does everybody else feel about the, let's say, John, how about you? Have you dropped it or got it slightly wet in the rain?
Yeah, I mean, I've had my Bradley for over 5, almost going on 6 years, and it's still, it works great. And I bang it up with my cane going side to side. I hit it on doors, walls, everything, and it is a tank. And I wash dishes with it, and water's getting up, and it no issues. So it's lasted my lifestyle.
Okay, and Joshua, what about you? Have you had it a bit wet or in the rain and kept wearing it?
Yeah, in the rain. I also work as a instructor for people who are low vision, so I'm teaching them different skills within the house. So whether it's cleaning or doing some dishes or cooking, I got it on. So it's gone through its pretty sure its share of what I've given it, and it's held up really well for me.
Okay, and now, Ming, I'm going to be very stereotypical and say, as a British person, you're probably very careful about your watch. But being in the US now, you're probably a lot rougher now. How's that for being stereotypical? How do you find with, accidentally banging the watch up against something or having it slightly get wet in the rain?
Well, I am British, but I'm also very clumsy. So
oh, there you go. Glad to say that. Now you've broken
my Bradley has been dropped more than a couple of times, like Madison's, and it's been fine. And like John, I don't always take it off to do the dishes. I certainly don't take it off to wash my hands or anything like that. And it's been absolutely fine. So no worries there.
Excellent. Now, Daniel, if you're still online, I can't check. What happens if you actually get melted cheese in the groove? Not that I've done this, mind you, but I'm just wondering, how would you clean the watch when you've accidentally, hypothetically speaking, got melted cheese in the groove? I'm not admitting to anything, but I'm just extremely curious about how you would clean it. Cool. All right. Well, that takes us to our question time, Mr. Tony.
Yes. So we have question time. So if you have any questions, please use the chat box. But if for some reason you're having difficulty using the chat box, just click on the raise your hand icon and I will unmute you. And so you can ask your questions personally to any one of our special guests. So far, nothing. Did you want to comment on the actual box that it comes in, David?
Yes. Now, this is the other thing that caught my attention. And this is the thing that I always talk about on it is first of all, what caught my attention was on the box, proudly in Braille, and it's even contracted Braille, not even uncontracted Braille, is the couple of words, designed for you, designed for everyone. And if that's not inclusive design, as in we've actually bothered putting Braille on the box, I don't know what isn't. And the other thing is it had a very short pamphlet inside it, also in Braille, which gave you a bit of an introduction to Bradley Snyder himself and also to how to actually get started with the actual Bradley watch as well. So that was also really, really cool. So they were the two things that I was so impressed about, that there was Braille on the Braille on the box, because often not when you get a quote disabled or quote blindness thing, it's normally got a lovely printed manual and it's got lovely printed stuff on the box. There's only about 2 or 3 products that I know of that would even bother to have, let alone Braille on the box, but also Braille inside it. So that was, I mean, E1 had already got my attention by even that initial stuff, just even touching the box. I just heard a question as well then, Tony.
Yes, so I'm going to unmute Ramona Mandy so you can ask your question.
Sure.
You can unmute yourself.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Firstly, yeah, I agree with you, David. Nice touch about the Braille on the box. I like that. And just before I ask my main question, can I just clarify? You're saying the face of the timepiece would be titanium as well, the matte part of it? Is that you're saying it was made out of titanium? Does that include the face?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. Yep.
I've been a Braille reader all my life, and I love my Braille watches, and I always like reading the time that way, analog. But I've always been taught that you just put your finger in the center and you feel the direction of the hands. And I'm sure you could follow it out to the hours, but there's no need, because I can tell by the spatial orientation of the hands with just one touch what the time is. What's the speed, I guess, that you can grasp just with a quick touch of the time if you've not got the direction of hands? Do you have to sort of find the bearings and then line it up with those pointers?
No. Well, yes, you do. But according to my watch now, it's 8 minutes past 8 here in Sydney in the evening. Yeah. So it wouldn't. It may be maybe 2 millimeter second. That's not right.
Millisecond faster.
Yeah, that's it. That's the what I was looking
slower.
For. So
yeah,
it's probably slightly slower, but it's no. But it's just that I don't know what it is. Do you know some services that you just want to? I don't know, just touch it or explore it or something like that. That's what gets me about the Bradley watch, because every time, I've got a $60 Amazon special tactile Braille thingy anyway, and that's got traditional hands. And to me, because I've got to open up the glass, I've then got to touch the hands. If I'm really busy, and particularly in meetings, people can hear the slight click sound about when it's like, oh God, David's bored. Here we go. Whereas at this one, you can sort of hide your wrist underneath the table like I'm doing now and go, oh, look at that. It's 10 past, it's just coming up to 10 past 8. So it's just that sort of very casual way of telling the time.
Yeah. But there is a spatial element to it. Yeah.
There is a spatial element to it. Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. No, I can't wait to feel it. So thank you.
And look, honestly, on the other sometimes too, is remember I said though, the outside ball bearings are the hours, and it lines up if you bring your finger up and over the clock face.
Yeah.
Like, if I know that the ball bearings on the left-hand side are watch in the middle, then I know it's 9 o'clock. I'm not going to bother going up and over and just confirming it. If it's on the right-hand side of the clock above the winder, I know it's 3 o'clock. So you get to know, like everything else, if it's in certain parts of the watch, it's just so easy to tell what the time is without having to check the exact minutes of it.
Great. Thank you. No, that's exciting. Thanks.
Thank you, Ramona. Thanks. Removing your permission to talk. Lynn, I'm going to allow you to talk. Lynn Davis, so you can unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You just muted yourself again, Lynn.
It's telling me the opposite. So you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I'm also interested in the question of how robust it is. I think particularly when I realised that there wasn't any glass. So there's nothing protecting the face, and then the ball bearings. And one of my questions is, have you ever experienced a ball bearing coming out of its groove? So it's really a question about the robustness. It's not just about hitting it against things. It's about what it does and what you do.
It's interesting. When I originally spoke to Daniel Lai about the watch and the ball bearings, I think he said out of all the watches that they've done and repaired over the years, so that's 12 years or so, I think they've had 2 watches that the ball bearings come out of. Right. And I think back then Daniel sort of indicated that it might have had a little bit of help to come out of the groove a little bit.
Okay.
So no, you'd have to work with it. And because it's truly titanium, it is tough. I mean, I haven't tried stamping on the watch or anything else yet, but it's robust enough to put up with a lot of bashing and crashing and that sort of stuff.
Wear and tear.
Yeah. Joshua, what do you think? How does it stand? Because you were talking about you help people in their homes, so you must be doing a fair bit of bashing around and banging it around. How does it hold up to a bit of rough and ready usage?
It holds up really well. I have I'll even have some of my students, try it on for especially some of the ones who are getting ready for applying to different workplaces. And so, some of my students, they'll put it through some testing, I should say.
Yes.
But yeah, it's holding up really well. Nothing, haven't seen or experienced anything that's kind of stopped it yet.
And David, you asked a question about rain. How does it cope with rain? But how does it cope if you absent-mindedly, as I occasionally do, get with it on and then realize I'm wearing it? That sort of encounter. Is there any feedback about the limits of its water resistance, I suppose?
Yeah, Daniel, do you want to send a quick chat through how does it stand up for its water limits? I'm quite happy to put mine in the sink in the kitchen, but that might be a bit drastic. But yeah, if you
do you mean right into the water?
I
why
wouldn't
not?
take it to go
to the
extreme.
Go swimming or anything. Look, I've had mine on doing the car, so I've got that normally on a full blown hose mode with the water spraying back out of the car. I've used it when I've been doing the pavers. I've been using one of those powered hose things to, clean off the mold off the pavings, and it's splashing back at me over the watch. I must admit, there you go. So Daniel just said he's guilty of submerging his when he's washing his hands. I tend to take mine off only when it's really, really, really pouring, because then I think I'm probably stretching the friendship here a little bit. And then I do take it. But if it's only like sprinkling or light rain, I just leave it on, because half the time, really, it's not as if the groove on top for the minutes is facing up towards the sky where the rain's coming from. It's down beside your hand, or, to me, it's moving around because I've got my hand on my guide dog's harness. So it's not likely to get wet all the time. But like I said, mine gets wet and it's still going.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about rain, which I haven't even thought about, but more about my absent-mindedness. And I know with conventional watches, they're usually these days described as waterproof to, 1 meter or 20 meters or whatever.
Yeah.
Some fairly precise description.
Yeah, this is water resistant.
Right.
So this is not waterproof, this is water resistant. So that's usually referred to as, like, what they say, was it splash proof, bit of rain, bit of moisture, but no, definitely do not jump in a swimming pool with it on, because the problem is not so much the damage to the watch, it's the water leaking into the innards of the thing and damaging the battery.
Yeah.
So I would say if you jumped in a pool or jumped in the ocean, chances are that it probably would stop working.
Time for a new model then. We've run out of time, unfortunately.
Just don't buy one, Lynn. Buy 3 just in case.
Oh, yes, David.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So for those that have questions, please contact the Vision Store team on either 1300 84 7466 or email the Vision Store team at visionstore@visionaustralia.org for your questions. For any other questions that you may have about the E1 watch. At the end of the webinar, there'll be a short survey for you to complete. Any feedback that you can provide will assist us in improving our content and delivery of the future webinars. We hope you found a new time in the evening, for those that are in Australia, more convenient to attend. These webinars will run now once every 2 to 3 months. So please check your emails or the Vision Store website for further details of our next webinar topic. I'd like to personally thank all the E1 ambassadors for joining us very, very early in their morning to be part of the panelists to discuss why they think the E1 watch is such a great timepiece. So thank you, John. Thank you, Ming. Thank you, Joshua and Madison. And thank you, Lynn. No, Lynn, you are a delegate. But thank you for joining us, though. I hope you found the webinar useful.
Can I just add one more thing to remember that if you're near a Vision Australia office, there's a Bradley watch on display. And I think, Tony, we were talking before we went on air today, and you said somebody saw one as a demo and they wanted it right there and then. So that's how cool it feels. As soon as you touch it, I can guarantee you want one. So yeah, that's my last final word. I'm normally a talker, so I'll be quiet now. But again, I'd like to extend my thanks to the ambassadors as well. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you for those in the background, Daniel, for answering a few questions for us as well. Thank you so much.
Daniel, just get to me about the cheese one when you're ready, mate. That'll be good.
Thank you all, and have a good evening or a good morning if you're in the States. Bye-bye.
Vision Australia.
Blindness, low vision,
Opportunity.
Vision Australia logo. 3 navy blue ovals linked together diagonally within a bright yellow rectangle.